Everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sasha and this is Just For You Papercrafts. Have I got something exciting for you today? So look at this. How cute is that? So this is a coffin shaped storage box. Okay, so there's the front, there's the sides, and there's the back of it. And so I did this kind of door knob type of closure, and I just dangled some charms from there, and you open it up like that and look at all the storage room in there. How great is that? So all I did was just add some Velcro as my closure, so I just come down, close the lid and stick it like that, and then that just hangs nicely on there. So there's a closer look. I look at the size of this embellishment. I mean, talk about chunky monkey. It's like the size of the Eiffel Tower. It's huge. I just got carried away. So there we go. So today we're going to make this. This is my first tutorial. So this is going to be quite hilarious, I can imagine. And as you know, I don't edit my videos, so whatever bloopers there are, you just got to roll with it, I'm afraid. But, and the second thing is this isn't my design, but I will put the link of the original tutorial down in the description box down below. Okay, so let's get started. So let me tell you what you're going to need. So I'm going to be using 2 sheets of 12 by 12 cardstock. So this is what I'm going to be using today. I've already chosen my papers. I'm just going to go for 2 pieces of 12 by 12 papers. So this is the Frank Garcia 31. So this piece is going to be the front and the rear of my box. And this piece is going to be around the edging and the closure of the box. Okay, you can use more than 2 sheets if you wish, and obviously your choice is yours. What else you're going to need is you are going to need your paper trimmer. You are going to need your scoreboard. The tools you are going to need are going to be your adhesives. So whether you choose glue or tape, and I do tend to use both. Your scoring tools, and I use both of these. You're going to need scissors and a pencil. Okay, so that's what you're going to need tools wise. So let's get started. So I'm going to take my cutting tool and I'm going to get the first sheet of my card. So I'm going to give you all the measurements. I'm going to do step by step and go through everything with you. If I go too fast, just remember you can actually pause the video, rewind it, do whatever you want, or just watch the whole video so you have a really good idea of what you need to be doing, and then rewatch it and pause as you need to go. So we are going to need 2 pieces of 9 by 5.5. So let me just move my little Halloween fake plants. Look at these. How cute are they? So you got little mummy, little ghosty. They're fake. I'm not very good with keeping real plants, but I'm all right with artificial ones. I still water them. Right, so let's get serious, shall we, for once? So I'm going to cut my card at 5.5. Make sure it's all nicely lined up. It'd help if my thing was in. Right, so cut that one. I'm going to rotate it and I'm going to cut it at 9. So line it up with the 9. Cut this piece and then you're left with this piece. Don't throw your scraps away because you just never know. So I'm going to do my second piece again. So at 5.5 inches. And again at 9 inches. So we don't need these 2 pieces. Okay, so we're going to put that to one side, and we're going to get out the score board. Please ignore the state of mine. It's absolutely filthy. I've had this for like 100 years. I'm not even exaggerating. Right, so let's get scoring. So you're going to take your first piece, and on the 5.5-inch side here, okay, you are going to score at 1/2 inch. No, I beg your pardon. You're going to score at 1.5. Sorry, I do apologize. You're going to score at 1.5. Ignore that. I did tell you this is going to be hilarious, isn't it? We may not even end up with a coffin shaped box. We could end up with a ball. Right, so let's go this. So score at 1.5 and at 4. So score at 1.5 inches and then score again at 4. You're going to rotate this, and so you're on the 9-inch side, and we are going to score at 3.5. Okay, so 3.5. I mean, even though I just messed that up, it's irrelevant, okay? And you'll see this as we go along. So it's not going to mean anything to me apart from the fact that I messed it up. Right, so the second piece, we're going to go along on the 5.5-inch side, and we're going to score at 1.5, not half like I originally said. So 1.5, and then again at 4. We're then going to rotate it. So you're now on the 9-inch side, and we are then going to score at 3.5 inches. Okay. So let's just remove this so you can have a look. Oh, knocking the camera. So if I bring you in, you can see the score lines. Okay. So you've got this score line along here, and you've got the two bigger ones here and here. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut these corners. Okay, so where the score line is there, and where this one comes along and is there, we are going to slice straight from corner to corner, straight across. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So I'll keep you zoomed in. Right, so I'm going to line this up. So I've got the top of that score line there, and I'm just going to line it up. So I've got this score line that comes along here. I've got that sat there. Okay, so when I close this up, I need to make sure that my wire in my paper cutter is lined up with that top score line and lined up with the edge of this score line. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it. And what you should have, it should then look like that. Okay, so you're cutting straight across from tip to tip. All right, you need to remove that piece there. So I'm going to do again the other side. So I'm just going to rotate it so I can do this properly. So I'm just going to line up my wire with each tip of the score lines, and I'm going to cut. So now you should have something. Let's have a look. You now should have something that looks like this. If you don't, then you're making something completely different. That's all I can say. So we're going to do the same again. So on the bottom bit, so where that score line comes across, we're going to start from there, and where the score line comes down here, we're going to end it there. So we are going to cut straight across from there to there. Okay, so let's do that. I'll zoom in again for you. Okay, so I'm lining up the edge of that score line. Can you see? And I'm going to edge up line up this edge of this score line down here. Okay, so we've got this piece here and we've got this piece here, so we're going to do another diagonal cut. So I'm just going to line it up with my wire in the middle of my paper cutter and cut. Okay, and now you should have two pieces like that. So I'm going to rotate it and I'm going to do exactly the same again. So I'm just going to line up this piece here to this score line here. Make sure it's lined up with the wire on my paper cutter, hold it down and cut. So now you should have your coffin shape. So these are the longer pieces that you've just cut off. And these are the shorter pieces. Okay, so you should have something that looks like that. All right, so we're going to do exactly the same thing again on the other piece. So let me just get rid of those, put that to one side, get my paper trimmer, and I'm going to do the same again. So let's just line this up. And slice. There we go. And I'm going to do the same again. And slice. Then I'm going to do that bottom part. Line it up and slice. And then rotate it just so I can do the last piece. If you could see the concentration on my face right now. Okay, right, so cut. There we go. So now let's get rid of those. So now you should have two pieces like this. So this is your coffin shape. Okay, so now what we're going to do before we do anything else, we are going to paper them. All right. So the paper I am going to use is going to be this one. So I want this pattern on the front of my coffin box and on the rear of my coffin box. Okay, so be mindful if you're using a pattern paper, be mindful of the direction. Okay, I'm absolutely renowned for putting my paper on upside down. If I've done it once, I've done it 100 times, and then I just leave it because I'm like, that's it, I'm not messing around with it anymore. So I'm going to flip this over because obviously I don't want to stick that there because I won't get that pattern. So I'm going to just flip the paper over and make sure that my direction is exactly where I want it. This is the top and this is the bottom. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some tape. I'm just going to move this a minute. I'm just going to add some tape to the perimeter of these because I do like using score tape more than I do glue, to be honest. I think it's because I get in such a mess with it, which you shouldn't be surprised by. So let's just quickly run this round at the perimeter. Do you know what? I'm such a crafty. I'm such a messy crafter that I have to be very mindful now when doing this video that I have to kind of get rid of all my rubbish as I'm going along. My desk is a worktop length. That's my desk. And I don't know, I'm trying to explain it now. So it runs the length of the bottom part of my craft room. So this is my desk. And honestly, by the time I finish, I end up working in a space of like 8 by 8 inches. And just like this, because I just do that all the time. And I start off trying to be organised, you know, I get everything out that I need, and then I'm like, oh, do you know what? I think that would work better than that. So then I go off searching, and I pull everything out, and then I get involved in the project, and then the rubbish doesn't go in the bin, which my Hyad is right beside me. That's my dog shouting, which is right beside me. And yeah, I still just push it to one side. Let me know if you're exactly the same. A messy crafter. Honestly, it's like a bomb has gone off in my craft room when I finished. I don't know what he's barking at out there. Something. Warning the birds. Right, so done that piece. I'm now going to quickly do the second piece. So my dog, I've got two. I've got a Sujon, and he's a cross between a Shih Tzu and a Bichon Frise. The one you can hear is the one you always hear. He's an Imperial Shih Tzu, so he's the smaller of the Shih Tzus, and he's got a large voice. But anyway, he's the doorbell warrior, as I call him. He thinks he's posh. He thinks he's posh. He thinks because he's got a hyphenate. He thinks he has a hyphenated name because it's constantly Teddy No. But he is a sweetheart. They both are. My Sujon Charlie, he's 16 years old. Bless him. And honestly, if he could talk, he would sound like Eeyore. You say to him, "Are you all right, Charlie?" "I'm all right." And Teddy, well, honestly, he would sound like he's had too much caffeine. He really would. Right, okay, so we've got these pieces done. I'm waffling on. I really do waffle on, don't I? Waffle on about rubbish. Right, so let's get the paper. Make sure that I do have it the right way round, and I'm now going to take off this tape. So I'm just going to use my pokey tool because I do struggle to get this tape off. Let me know if you've got, if any of you've got any little doorbell warriors running around your house, not paying any bills. Right. Okay, so let's get rid of the rubbish because I'm going to try and be good for you guys. So I'm going to get this piece and I'm just going to line it up at the bottom, just so I'm not wasting too much paper. And I'm going to stick it down. So I'm just going to varnish it so I know it's nice and stuck. And then I'm going to get my second piece. So I'm just going to take off the tape here as well. Mind you, me doing this, if you are kind of following me and doing working alongside me, it gives you a chance to catch up if you need to, doesn't it? I might do a live video at some point. We could all join in and just chit chat as we're crafting, couldn't we? How wonderful would that be? I'd love to do that with you guys. Not that any of you would get a word in edgeways. Right, so let's line this up. Make sure I'm not overlapping there. Just line it up and stick it down. There we go. Right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to get my paper trimmer and just trim off the access a minute. just slice it up through the middle, and then I can use my scissors to cut out what I need. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Let's get my scissors. So all you're going to do is you're just going to cut along the edge of here, and then that will give you the covered top and bottom. So I'm just going to cut along here. Someone asked me the other day if I would do a craft room tour. Oh, I did laugh. The state it's in right now. All these hauls I've been doing, honestly, I haven't put half of it away. Thing is, I think about doing that, and then I'm like, you know what, I'll do a video instead. And when you're working and everything, it just, oh, time just never seems to be enough time in the day for crafting. That's what I say. Work interrupts life. I'm still here. I'm just cutting. I'm concentrating. Right, so that's that piece done. Oh, look how beautiful that looks. I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, so we're going to do the second piece. So let's get cutting. Let me know what you think about doing a live. Would you all join me? I'd have to figure out how to do it. And I'm having a real issue. I can't seem to record at night at the moment because the lights that I have, when I'm recording, and I've done a couple of videos in the evenings or at night, and I've had to delete them because there's a lot of flickering on the screen, and I think it's because one of my lights is LED and my camera just does not like it. So I'm not sure really what else to do about that. If you've got any ideas, I would be grateful for that. Because usually evenings is the only time really that I have, unless I'm, you know, unless it's a day off. Like today, I have today off. Right, so there we go. Let's get rid of all of that. So, oh, look how beautiful these look. Oh, I love them. So that's my top, my bottom. All right. So now we can just put those to one side because you're not going to need those for a while. So now what we're going to do is it comes to the almost the complicated bit. So I need to concentrate. So we are now going to cut two pieces at 11 by 3. Okay, 3 by 11. So we're going to cut two pieces. So I'm going to cut my first piece. Let me just move this slightly. So I'm going to cut it at 3 inches. Make sure that's all nicely lined up. And cut. And I'm going to do it again. Making sure it's all lined up. And cut. Then I'm going to rotate these pieces and I'm going to cut it at 11 inches. Okay, get rid of that piece. Get my second piece. And I'm going to cut it at 11. Okay, you should have two pieces like that. You're not going to need those. You can get rid of those. Right, so now the next piece is, let me get rid of that piece. Oh, actually, no, what we're going to do is we're going to cut 2 more pieces. We might as well, while we've got the cutting board out. So we're going to cut 1 piece at 3 by 3. So that's a nice perfect 3 there. So I'm using the scrap pieces that I had. So 3 by 3 there. And then we're going to cut another piece at, oh, there goes Teddy, at 3 by 2. So I'm going to cut it at 3 by 2. He's got to make himself known, he has. Okay, right, so now you should have 4 pieces. Okay, so you've got 3 by 11, 3 by 3, 3 by 2. Okay, so we're just going to move those out of the way, and we're going to bring in our scoring board. Just bear with me. I'm just gonna shout at the dog. Hang on. Well, he just looked at me and laughed. When I say shout, I mean it honestly. It's more Teddy no, and he's like, oh, I'm so posh. Okay, right, so we're going to do some scoring. So you're going to get your 3 by 11 piece. Okay, and on the 3-inch side, we are going to score at 1/2 inch. And we are going to score at 2.5. I may have paused there because I was thinking. Right, so we are going to score at 1/2 inch, and we're going to score again at 2.5. We are then going to rotate it. So now we're on the 11-inch side, and we are going to score again at 1/2 inch. We are going to score at 6 inches, and we are going to score at 9.5. Okay, so we're going to repeat that process. So I brought in another piece. So on the 3-inch side, we are going to score at 1/2 inch. Make sure it's all nicely lined up, and again at 2.5 inches. I'm going to rotate that. We're now on the 11th inch side, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. I'm going to score at 6 inches. Oh. And I'm going to score again at 9.5 inches. Okay, so you've got those 2 pieces there. I'm then going to get the 3 by 3 piece. Okay, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch on each side. All right, so let's score 1/2, going to rotate, score at 1/2, rotate, score at 1/2, and rotate. Last one, score at 1/2. We are going to get the, oh, I can hear a lot of commotion outside. I think it's children. So we're going to get the 3 by 2 piece. Okay, and we're going to score on the 3-inch side. All right, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 2.5 inches. So on the 3-inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch, and we're going to come along and score at 2.5 inches. All right, so that's all the pieces you are going to need. So we're going to remove the scoreboard. So this is where it now gets a little bit confusing. And trust me, I'm probably not going to make this any easier. So I have a template because I needed to make sure that we get this right. So first things we're going to do is let's remove these. And we're going to take this first piece. So I'm just going to bring you in because I want to show you what we're going to do. So you can see score line there, and the score lines coming along there. So you got these little squares, okay, and we are going to cut straight across that where the score lines meet there. Okay, so we're going to triangle there, and get rid of this piece. So let me show you. So I'm going to go straight across and off it comes. I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to do exactly the same again this side. Okay, all right, so then you should be left, or it should look a bit like this. Okay, so you got rid of these pieces here. All right, don't worry if it's not even or anything like that, because these are flaps and you're not going to see them. Okay, it's just so that you can fold the flaps over. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come down to the next score line, and what we're going to do is, I don't know if you can see this very well, so you've got a score line that comes down here, and you've got a score line that goes along here, and we are going to cut a little triangle out either side of this score line, and we're not going to go over that score line. So let me show you, because it's probably as clear as mud. So we're going to go up, and we're just going to right to that score line. Don't go over it. We're going to come up the other side of this little score line that's come down here, and we're just going to cut. Okay, it's just cutting out your triangle bit. All right, and we're going to do the same again where this score line is here. So I'm just going to go up to that score line, around and up to that score line. Okay, so your piece should look like this. I'm going to do it again just so you can see. So we're going to cut up to that score line and cut that piece out, and then we're going to cut up to that score line and cut that piece out. Okay, so your piece should now look like this. So let me get rid of the rubbish. And we're going to do exactly the same with this piece. Okay, so let me just quickly do that. So I'm going to cut that piece, snip it. There we go. So that should look like that. And again, these pieces, let's move this way so we know where we are. Okay, so this is your 3x3 piece. So let me just zoom in. So you've got your score line that goes along there and along there. So if you can see right here, you have your square box. Well, we're going to cut that out. So we're going to come straight across that cross again and get rid of this section here. So let me show you. There we go, just like that. So let's do that on all sides. And it doesn't have to be perfect, honestly, it doesn't. So it now should look like that. Okay, to a fashion. All right, so you want to get rid of those pieces. Right, so now the next bit that we are going to do. Now I just need to make sure that I am doing this correctly. So we are going to cut, you got this piece here, and we are going to cut this piece off. All right, so you're left with this bit and this bit. Only on one of them. So through that score line, I'm just going to cut it. Now you're left with 2 pieces. Okay, so now you should have one that looks like that, one that looks like this, and one that looks like this, one that looks like this, and one that looks like this. Good. Right. So now what we're going to do is let's just fold on all of our flaps, okay? Because it will just make it a little bit easier. So I'm just going to fold the flaps over. I'm just going to burnish them a little bit so we've got a little bit more stability. I'm going to burnish, cut this, fold. What am I talking about? I'm going to fold this one. My mouth moved faster than my brain did then. And let's just move this one. Okay. And I'm going to do the same with this piece. I'm going to fold it. Fold it. Because we're going to be cutting and connecting, because we need this piece to be quite long. But I also want to make sure that all my score lines have been burnished, because as we're connecting, it's going to be easier to maneuver. So let's just burnish this piece. So I'm folding all of my score lines, okay? So I'm just going to go over with them just to burnish them. Right, so everything's folded. So let's get our connecting pieces together so we don't make a huge mistake. Okay. Right, so you should have all of this. Let's move everything out of the way, because I really do not want to confuse you or myself when we're doing this. Right, so let's move this here. We've got this piece here. Okay, and we are going to cut off this small top section. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so you're going to remove this piece, and then you should be left with this piece. So with the 3 by 3 piece, that piece we've just removed, we are going to connect one of the flaps to the top of that. All right, so I'm just going to get some glue. Just going to run some glue along one of the flaps. Just going to line it up. So don't go over the score line. Line it up to the score line, because you need to be able to fold it. Let's just smush that down. Just going to burnish it. Okay, so now you should have it looking like this. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to get the 2 by 3 piece, and we are going to add it to the bottom here. All right, so let's just get some glue. Okay, I'm just going to line it up with that score line and lay it flat. Make sure you line it all up nicely and lay it flat. So just going to give it a little burnish. Make sure that adhesive sticks. Okay, so now you should have your piece looking like this. You should still be left with this piece and this piece. Okay, so we are now going to get this longer piece, and where you've got your flap, we are going to add it to this section here. So before I do that, let me just snip off these bits here. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so we're going to add this piece to this piece. All right, so let's just get some glue. Okay, we're just going to line it up with that score line. As I say, don't go over that score line of that flap, and stick it down. Give it a little burnish, make sure that that adhesive is stuck. Okay. Right, so you've got one piece left, which is this piece, and we are going to attach this to the top. Okay, so let me just move it along. So we're going to make sure that the small piece is sat at the top. Okay, so this larger piece here is what needs to be adhered to this flap here. All right, so we're just going to get some of my glue. Just going to run a bead a bit around there. And we are going to line that up. And stick it down. You can hear that rummaging. That's now Teddy bedding down, which means that's good, because that means he's going to be quiet and settled for a minute. Charlie's already asleep in here. I've got like a pinky sheepskinny, fake sheepskin rug on the floor, and he does like to snuggle down on that. Life of being a dog, eh? How wonderful. Right, so let me just burnish this. Okay, so now you have all of your connecting pieces, and it should look like this. And I really hope I managed to explain that to you as clearly as I possibly could. Right, next thing we're going to do is let's just double check that this does what it's supposed to do before we kind of paper it. So we're going to get, let me just get the coffin board. And this is what I mean about the flaps. And I will show you how to kind of adhere this. But what I want to make sure is that with the shape that we needed is what we have. So that's going to come along there. That's going to come along there. And that's going to come along there. Fantastic. Brilliant. We're there. Right. So the next phase is this piece here, this small piece is almost your closure. So these three pieces here, we are going to glue in those flaps. Okay, and let me show you, because on the opening, yeah, we don't have the flaps. So if you can see inside, the flaps stick to the top and bottom, to the bases, but this piece doesn't. So if we fold them in and glue them, it gives a nicer edge to your closure. Does that make sense? Instead of cutting them, we're going to fold them in and we're going to glue them, and then you've got a nice clean edge. So that's the reason we're going to do that. So make sure that your direction is correct and you're gluing in the right flaps. Okay, so you need to glue in the pieces that has the smaller connecting bit at the top here. Okay, that's your long piece, and you've got 1, 2, 3 pieces here, and these are the ones we're going to glue in. Okay, so let's get your glue, and let's start gluing them down. So that's the first one. I'm just going to fold it over and stick it down. I'll go on to my second piece. I'm going to fold it over and stick it down. And then the third piece. Oh, you kind of come unstuck then. How rude. Right, let's glue this one down. I'm just holding this piece down because he's being a bit temperamental. Just hold it down. You can just burnish it then. Make sure that that adhesive is spread nice and even. And then just get rid of your excess glue. It's all over my desk now. Oh, all over my fingers. There we go. So, and now we're going to do the other side. All right, so I'm just going to run my glue through there. Fold it over, glue the next piece. Fold it over, hold it down for a second. Just give it a quick burnish so that spreading out the adhesive. And the final piece. And just hold that piece down. There we go. Okay, right, so next piece is we're going to decorate this side of it. So if you want to decorate the inside, obviously go ahead. For the sake of the length of the video, I'm not going to, but I am going to decorate the front part. Right, so let's get the paper. Right, so as I was saying, sorry, I had to pause the video then. So we're going to decorate this section here. So what I'm going to do is I just want to measure this piece here. So I'm just going to have a look so I can decide what size width of the paper I'm going to have. Okay, so it's about 2 inches. So I'm going to go probably cut 1 3/4, I think. So I'm just going to move this piece. So you are going to need 2 pieces because obviously you're not going to get a whole one continuous piece. And Teddy's off again. Right, so let's just going to knock on the window. Shh. Like that told him, didn't it? Oh, well, he's come in. Anyway, that's something. Actually, I'm going to cut this at 1 and, let's have a think, 1 7/8, I think. That's what I'm going to do. I can always trim it if I need to. Right, oh, my pots are, my fake flower pots are in the way. Right, let's try this again. So 2 7/8 we're going to go. You're going to need to cut 2 pieces. And the reason I cut it a little bit short, narrow, is because I like to have a little edge gap. Perfect. That is perfect. Right, so I'm going to cut another piece exactly the same. Make sure it's all lined up, top and bottom. And, oh, ouch, and cut. Right, so we don't need that piece. Let's get rid of this. And let's lay this out so we can see exactly what we have. So that's going to be, I don't know if we need, actually, I don't know if we're going to need 2 or 3 pieces. No, 2 pieces. And it's going to connect there, which is going to look a bit odd now because of the direction of the paper, but never mind. We're all right with that. And we're going to trim the edge off. So I want a little gap at the top here as well. So what I'm going to do is, that lined up. So let's line this piece up. And I am just going to get my pencil and just make a little mark where I want to cut it. So we're just going to come in about there. So I'm just going to get my paper trimmer and just slice that piece off. So now it should nicely be lined up. To connect it there. Perfect. I'm happy with that. That will work for me. Right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tape this. So I'm going to get my tape, she says, as you can find it. I had it here. This is what I mean. I'd start, yeah, you know, how can it disappear? How can anything disappear? It does. Oh, there it is. It's under a scrap piece of paper. Right, so let's, I think I'm running out of tape here. So I'm just going to run down the perimeter of this piece. And do it again. And just a little bit here. And I just take it right up to the edge of the paper. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a quick burnish. And I'm going to do the same with this piece. Turn it around, go down the other side. and then along the edge here. And I would normally just run another piece down there, but for the sake of the video, I'm not going to. Right. So let's get our pieces. And let's start sticking this down. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of this. I am trying to be good. Like I said, you wouldn't think I had a bin right next to me. Right, let's get this all lined up. So I just want to come down there. And stick it down. So I'm going to do the next piece. Right, let's get rid of that. Let's get this second piece lined up. So I'm going to butt it right up together. I turned it around because it just, even though it's not matching, it just looked even worse. Right, so let's just run this down, making sure it's all in place. That'll do. That will do. Oh, I have got a little gap there, but never mind. Can always stick something there. Right. So now what we're going to do is, or what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put tape on my flaps. You can use glue if you wish, but I'm going to use tape, because it just makes it easier for me. So let's get the tape. I think I may have to open up a new one. Right, let's just run tape along here. So I'm going to come to the edge of the flaps. Yeah, I've run out of tape. Right, I'm just going to, let me just grab another one. I'm sure I've got one somewhere. Just bear with me one moment. Okay, right, so I've got a new roller tape. So as I was saying, I'm going to go along the edge of the flaps. Oh, where's my little cutty thingy? Right, go along here. And along here. So I'm just going to turn it around and do the same again this side. I hope you enjoy this video. Hope you make the box. Okay, right, so that's that piece. Okay, so now to connect it. So this is where it does get a little bit tricky. So I'm going to try and help you out here. Right, so you've got your two coffin pieces. Okay, so we're going to take the first one. So depending on, well, actually it doesn't matter. I was going to say depending on what's top or bottom, but honestly it doesn't matter at this stage. Right, so because you've added paper, we are now just going to gently fold all of the creases and score lines, just because it's now got an extra layer of paper on there, and we just need to be able to make it maneuverable, you know what I mean. All right, so there we go. So I'm just gently folding on all the sections that I need to fold, because now we've got extra paper, which means it's now quite thick. So this is now where it gets a little bit tricky, okay, because we need to attach this to the boxes, okay. All right, and you need to have a little bit of a gap as well either side. So what I do is I kind of almost, I'm going to need my pencil, so I get it lined up as best I can, so just so it looks quite even. Just bear with me because I am concentrating. This does take a little bit of, let's move this piece out a little bit. A piece there, which means that would sit there. Would that sit there? So I'm going to move that up a little bit. Like I said, take your time with it, okay? Just take your time. Right, so I'm quite happy with that, I think. So I'm just making sure that this connecting piece here lines up here, because this is your closure. All right, so I'm just making sure it is all sat as I like it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just kind of using my hand as a weight, and I'm going to get my pencil and I'm just going to draw a fine line around the perimeter, because this is going to give me a guide of where I need to stick it. Okay, so if you can see very lightly, I don't know if you can, my pencil marks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the bottom piece. So I'm going to take off my tape. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually hold that in place there, and I'm just going to line it up with my pencil mark, and then I'm just going to drop the flap down. Okay, so now you can see that piece is in place. All right, so I'm just going to give it a little burnish. I'm going to come round, I'm going to do this next piece here. So I'm just going to remove this tape. I'm going to hold this piece in, and I'm just going to line it up with that pencil mark, and then I'm going to drop the flap down. Okay, and then I'm just going to give that a little burnish on the inside, because once it's your lid bit's on, you're not going to be able to get into there. Okay, so now I'm going to do that again with this side. So there's a lot of flipping and moving and everything else like that, but just take your time. So I'm going to remove this piece here. I'm going to hold it in. So I'm holding the flap bit up and coming round, I'm finding that pencil mark of mine, lining it up and dropping down the flap. Okay, so there we go. So that's now stuck in place. So the last piece is this piece here. I'm going to just flip it around again. I'm going to remove this tape backing. I'm going to hold it in. So I'm holding it in. Find my pencil line and drop the flap. Okay, there we go. And then that comes round, and that you put your piece of Velcro on there, and that connects nicely. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we now need to attach this piece. All right, so what I'm going to do, and this is a little bit easier, because what you can do is you can just take off, hold it down there, and if you're confident enough, you can just eyeball it and stick it straight down, which I think I'm going to do, because I'm a bit of a rebel like that. So I'm going to take off all the tape. Okay, let me just move all my rubbish. So I've got some room. We don't need that because that one's gone. Right, so I'm going to hold that piece down. All my tape is now off. My flaps are pointing in. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to line this up. She says, oh, feeling a bit nervous. Hang on, let's try it this way. No, I'm not going to be able to do it that way. No, come on, let's just go with it. Let's just go with the flow. I'm going to hold it there. Just going to line it up. And I'm going to stick it down. Going for it, just sticking it down. There we go. Don't need that piece. So now you have your very cute coffin box. How sweet is that? How sweet is that? So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a Velcro closure. So we'll go for a pink one. You can use any closure you like. Obviously now the decoration's all down to you. So you can do whatever you like. So I'm just going to take this piece off. I'm just kind of going to eyeball it. Stick it there. Let's get the other piece. These are so super sticky. They're great. I'm just going to lay that on top. Oh, I've still got a bit of plastic stuck to that one. Come on. Right, so let's lay that piece on there. And I'm just going to bring that round and make sure that this foldy section sits nicely on the edge there. So I'm just going to bring it round, make sure it's all lined up, and then just press, stick it down. Make sure that's, so I'm just going to tease it apart and proper give it a good squeeze so it's stuck nicely. And then you've got your box. And just bring that round, close it up, and there we go. There, you've done your box. So this is the decorated version and the undecorated version. So now you can just go ahead and decorate to your heart's content and add all your charms, sequences, bits and pieces, whatever you wish to do. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I really do. It's my first tutorial. As I said, the original video, I will link that down below because I can't take credit for it, but whatever, I do hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it was clear enough for you. So my next video is going to be a haul video, and I can't remember if it's Temu or Shein. I really can't, but anyway, watch out for that one because that's coming up next. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Bye.